G'day and welcome to Agents Unleashed. We are continuing our exploration of the impact of AI on people. Actually, today it's the impact of AI on the way Agile teams work. And who better to take us down that particular rabbit hole than Ali? Over to you, mate.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. For whomever who has been around for quite a long time, you know that this channel, back in the days, was called SBCs Unleashed. So we have a couple of, let's just say, people that have spent a huge portion of their life just working with any form or shape of Agile, and therefore also Agile teams. And the thing is, Agile teams are everywhere. So I thought on this episode, what if we try to evaluate the cross-section between agentic AI, agents, AI in itself, large language models, and all of the buzzwords with the other buzzwords, Agile teams, and so forth. And the thing is, I started Googling a little bit, and I got some data about the use of Agile. Data from 2022. I have some links over here. Probably if anyone is interested, we're just gonna throw that into a LinkedIn post or maybe in the show notes. The data showed that 70% of IT teams use Agile. Of course, this is survey data, so it's biased to the companies that have been surveyed. In the annual State of Agile report, the last one is already from a couple of years back. But in there was a statement that 86% of marketing teams were busy with implementing one form or shape of Agile. That's a huge number. And that same report, it stated that 48% of R&D teams employ Agile practices, whether it is elements from Scrum or a Kanban system, but any Agile practices. 2019, KPMG surveyed a couple of thousands of companies, and in there mentioned that 83% of the surveyed companies started their Agile transformation within the last 3 years. So that was 2017 till 2019. And the thing is, Agile is everywhere, and it has been around for a huge amount of time. So we thought, let's just investigate what is the impact of AI on Agile teams. So in this show, and I promise you it's going to be an interesting session, we are going to talk about bottlenecks, we're going to talk about mundane tasks, we're going to talk about amplifiers, value stream, but also about love, about cocaine, about margaritas. Yep, that's the drink.
Am I going to have to tick the button on YouTube to say not safe for kids, or...
We're not sure. We're not sure, but it's going to be
supervised. It's supervised.
But we're going to try to keep it civilized. But in keeping it civilized, I would like to hear from you, Mark. What is your sort of special topic interest with respect to Agile and AI?
I'm going to just be slightly warped with this because I'm going to go the lean flavor of Agile and say, we talked for a lot of years about necessary waste, unnecessary waste, and value-added activities. And my special passion when it comes to AI and Agile teams is to use it to get rid of necessary waste and unnecessary waste, and to help you get more creativity and impact out of the time you spend doing value-added activities.
All right. How about you, Niko?
Now I have 10 more ideas than before. So what I think interesting when you ask about, or anybody's asking about AI and Agile teams, some people will give you answer how much AI helps individuals that are on the teams. So many people around me, or many clients who are trying to think about Agile, they always think an individual of a team will use Agile. But that's not that what I understand from Agile at the team level. My question is, how can Agile on team level help the team, help the value stream? And not only how can it help me becoming more performant? And that's a little bit my passion, disappointment, or whatever. The passion would be, how can I integrate it into a value stream? Because there it should be agile on team level. And the disappointment is somehow that people just optimize their own AI usage. Like me, typing faster doesn't help the team. And that's where I am at the moment with my thoughts.
So you're zooming out a little bit in the sense of what kind of impact does AI have on value delivery or on the company rather than on the team itself?
But it goes in a direction, as Mark said in his statement, it's about eliminating the waste. That's exactly what I think. It's about the value stream. Could be an art, could be a flight level 2 or whatever a framework we are using. How do you use AI there? Absolutely.
Right. Thank you. How about you, Stephan?
Yeah, let me pick up that thought from Niko and also zoom out using an analogy. If you're going to listen to a music band, you want to hear music, your preferred music, so you know which band you are listening to. But from a viewpoint from a band needs amplifiers, right? I'm a hobby musician. I have an e-bass. I do my training, or if I am training my scales, I can do it without an amplifier. It's good enough for me. But as soon as I go on the stage or together with a group, I need amplifiers. And the question is, what do you get amplified? And does it still be something good enough that people enjoy, right? That's why you probably need an audio engineer in the room that probably lowers my volume because I want to be loudest in the team. And we don't hear the guitarist anymore. We don't hear the singer anymore. The question for me in the end is, it's less about AI, which is kind of a tool. It's more about who's on the stage. Are there already the pros, or are we talking about amateurs that need some guidance how to play music so that it's something of pleasure for those who are in the room?
This was the drug part of the... No, sorry.
Not yet. That's going to come.
We're talking about going to see bands, so it obviously flows from that.
There are also bands that are just very, small and indie and cute, and I'm trying to tie this back to how AI is blending.
The word is amplifiers.
Agile teams. So, if I understand you correctly, you're mentioning, amplify the right thing rather than amplify everything, or just amplify.
Yes.
And something that should not be amplified shouldn't be there in the first place. Which is, I think all three of you have been mentioning pretty much this similar thing. Like, if there's waste in there, let's eliminate the waste in some way, rather than amplify the waste that shouldn't be there. I think I was a little bit on that same track because I wrote down that the thing that I really like is that I see people just use AI to take over the mundane things that have to happen, but can be, automated or taken away from you a bit. Taken off your plate. If how cool would that be? Just if the boring stuff is not a thing anymore. So we're going to zoom into this topic by like we always do, with a couple of triggers. So we'll start with the very first one, which is the following. So from a personal perspective, what is the single most useful or surprising task that AI has taken over for your teams? So it would be fantastic if we have some examples. Has it made work faster, or just has it made you rethink what busy actually means? I would say let's start with you, Niko.
Yeah, this one is an easy one because it's nothing. As I said in the beginning, my definition of AI on team level is change the team process, help the value stream become better, or help the product become better. And the things I've seen until now was on a personal level. So people on a personal level becoming better, but that's not what I want to see on a team level. So nothing really systematically on an art level, on a team level, on a whatever flat level you're looking. So unfortunately, at the moment, nothing. At the moment.
But it means that you're seeing also like a sort of a disbalance So because, some team members have been utilizing AI tools and other team
Yeah.
members have not, and therefore as a team you don't really see the benefits or the sort of the effects.
Oh, I love this follow-up question. I just see this as a maturity thing. So the people are using it in my teams. I think everybody are using Agile, sorry, AI, but I don't see it going one step further and see how can AI help us as a team. So I think everybody on the team, developers having sparring partners, POs having a sparring partner about or letting features and stories create, etc. So each in his discipline is using AI, but I think it's not the level we are needing here, and that's why. So I would be surprised if one team had found something like that or is on this maturity level. So it's not imbalance in the team. I think each individual has the same knowledge and the same, or at least in my environment where I coach and train, I have the same level, but as a team, this is missing.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephan. I think I see something. If you wrote down something similar or something quite related to what Niko mentioned.
It's a similar perception. I would like to answer it from two viewpoints. From me as observing teams, and probably from a team perspective. I haven't seen many teams using as a team AI, as Niko said. Probably the individual is using it, testing stuff, using some nice and shiny tools, and if you ask them, if you ask the individual developer, they seem to be more satisfied. But I doubt that they are more productive. So I did a bit of research, and one of the recent studies says, yes, AI at this given time probably slows down experienced developers. So 19-20% longer to complete issues. That's again like in my analogy. Oh, you get a new gadget to distort your guitar sound, right? But hey, we want to hear the sound. And distortion is probably only a minor part of the notes and the lines you want to play. And my question here is then, are we running into a paradox? We say, okay, AI speeds up stuff, but in the end, if you look end to end, if you look along a value stream, it slows us down. That's my perception. Proof of the pudding, not yet there for me, because I'm just beginning as a coach, as a change agent, to work with teams who start using AI in that way.
Thank you, Stephan. It's indeed a paradox. Using AI to become faster, but then actually becoming slower because of all of the effort that you need to do to verify. How about you, Mark?
I'm going to start with the surprising fact and then give a little bit of backstory. The surprising fact to me is it's driven a huge uptick in the amount of documentation and your perception of the value of the documentation. And it is a surprising one because you think about Agile and documentation, right? But it's where I think, when you're reading the stats at the start of the show, Ali, it's like X number of % of organizations. And what was running through the back of my head was, if I think about, right, the Agile Manifesto signers, or the people who lived on, hyper advanced Agile teams at some stage in the past, right? And my head instantly goes back to a flashback where we had a team room and all of our PCs faced each other and the walls were covered in whiteboards and we were kind of working out loud all day, every day, and we just hummed like a team, right? That's the picture of what good Agile was for me. And obviously we shipped every sprint, right? I think there's a gap between people who say, yes, 90% of it are doing Agile and how many are doing the Agile that perhaps we all would hope that a team would experience. And one of the things that I've been going through the last few years, right, is it was always hard and was always one of the things I'd push for as a coach. When you're doing, let's say you're launching an art, you're going to reorganize some teams. I'd say part of the art launch has to be a seating plan, right? How are we going to move these people so they're sitting together? Because I knew, and had I ever done a scientific study? No, but had I watched it a lot of times, and I knew if you went to the effort to sit teams together, the arc of their evolution and movement towards high performance was so radically different to when you didn't. It wasn't funny. But now we live in a world where, realistically, post-COVID, most Agile teams see each other once every 3 months if they're lucky. And so you never get that constant hum of communication going backwards and forwards of, you could keep your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening in the team. You'd be working at your desk, you hear a conversation going on behind you, you go, oh, I'm going to swivel around, I'm going to join that conversation, because that was the hyper communication we were looking for. And the last few years, it's so sad. COVID has meant that most teams will never experience that today. And yep, there are teams that went through it and figured it out and said, oh, we're going to do online pairing and so on and so forth. But I think they were agile teams that didn't want to lose something that they'd learned to love, as opposed to the teams that had never had it and didn't realize how valuable it was. You add AI into the mix, and I think it's got possibilities to help us reconnect, because AI thrives on context. Hang on a second, we've all been agile coaches for a long time. Do we talk about teams thriving on context, right? If you want an AI to do something for you, you've got to give it a rich context. You've got to tell it what you're trying to achieve, right? You've got to make clear what your mission is and your success criteria. You've got to have some kind of clarity on the plan of attack you're following and the key learnings you're looking to chase. And the more that you build up this surrounding context, the more effectively AI is going to work for you. So it naturally heads you down a path of going, I want more documentation around my mission, my context, and my circumstances, and what success looks like, because the AI will help me better. Oh, isn't it handy that the more I build that context, the more that my team benefits as well? And so there's this kind of interesting thing that it drives you to build shared context. Yes, that shared context is in the form of documents. To be honest, a lot of those documents are things that people don't look at too often, but they turn up when you run queries. Right. If you go one step further, and this is the experiment I've been running lately, is working with teams to go, run a ChatGPT project. You're setting out to do something. Maybe it's just, a task that's going to take you a week or so. Running a ChatGPT project, share the project with your team members. Then they can see your conversations. You can see their conversations. And the first thing you do when you load the project up is you go, here's the mission statement. I'm uploading it because every conversation in this project's going to reference it. So I can see ways in which, funnily enough, producing huge amounts of new documentation is going to help us to be more agile, because it's going to help us to establish and maintain a shared context. And that's very surprising, because I was a hater of documentation.
What I wrote down is really in line with what you just mentioned, because I've been working with a team that used or that is using an extremely simple functionality in Microsoft Copilot, which is embedded in every Teams environment if your system administrator enabled Copilot chat for Microsoft Teams, which is the so-called transcript functionality. So these days in Microsoft Teams, you can record and transcript and create a transcript, or you can just create a transcript, which basically means AI listens and then generates sort of a summary of the meeting. But all of those meeting transcripts are shoved into Confluence in this case, and that is still a manual thing at this moment for this team. But then somebody just goes through the Confluence, let's say the result that came out of Copilot, and the moment that there is sort of a follow-up action that needs to happen, something that the team identifies as, oh yeah, we need to do something. That's like a task for us. They create a sort of a little checkbox in front of that line item, in front of that piece of text. And what that does is, out of all of the chat transcripts, they run a query to create a small little dashboard showing all of the things that they still need to do. So why am I saying that? And why is this sort of profound thing for this team? Yes, it is a little bit of AI usage, but that's in the most simplistic form. It is, Copilot just creates a summary of the meeting, and they identify sort of a task for the team, and the rest is there for logging purposes. But they sort of have a little action list. What I've noticed in my short career as an agile coach is that very often teams, they're really focused on the today, but not so much on the yesterday.
Yes.
You had a daily stand-up, and then you're focusing on, well, this is what I did yesterday, this is what I'm doing today, and this is what I'm gonna probably need some help on. But what decisions were made yesterday that you actually like to follow up today? that kind of stuff is very tough to manage. Well, using this, let's say, trick that this team has with the creation of in a way a to-do list from yesterday and some other actions from the day before, they are very much in control of their tasks and their agreements, because they're not really dependent on a person remembering what we've agreed yesterday, or a person making a note somewhere about an agreement from yesterday, which was such a small application of AI, but for this team it had such a profound impact, and it's so easy to implement. But I found that pretty cool. But that meant indeed that you're using way more documentation, or you're generating way more documentation, but it's not a human that goes through that documentation anymore. And I think that is what is sort of the big change. So we've been talking about let's say comprehensive documentation as as part of one of the Agile values. Let's sort of go a step further, because the Agile Manifesto, it prioritizes individuals and interactions over processes and tools. And if AI takes over a process, like, I don't know, generating code, I'm not sure whether any of you ever had used Cursor. If not, oh my God, it's amazing. That's it. If you're a software developer, you don't develop code anymore. That's it. It doesn't happen. But when AI takes over a process, like generating code, estimating work, does your team's interactions get better or worse? And is there potentially a new friction point? Stephan?
Yeah, we already discussed some of these springboards, right? And I sense another paradox. We think we get better with AI, but AI may improve certain interactions, but also degrading some of them. That would be my summary, what I just heard. So, as Mark said, the social and emotional communication will decrease, and studies already tell us by a third. That's huge, right? You lose something that we really cherish and valued in the past decades when we're talking about lean and agile. And now comes in another tool set, another support that decreases that. Collective ownership becomes ambiguous. Now we have a connection or an interaction between humans and AI, right? And probably later we will talk about who is responsible for what's being done, how it's stored, how it's used. And you ask for the friction points. There's a validation burden, right? Why do we collaborate? Not only to see each other, to talk to each other, to be on the same level, have the same flight level. It's about how do you validate what AI creates, right? Just storing documents in an automated way doesn't help. There's a lot of hallucination in it. How do we ring fence that? How do we validate? The other thing that we already tackled a little bit is communication. So the communication will shift from how should we process stuff? This could be done by AI, but what is the social calibration behind it? If AI does a lot for us, what is our duty and what should we communicate? Should I rely on Copilot doing it, or should I, based on what Copilot does, then go into a different type of communication, right? And also a third friction point I see, and we already discussed it a little bit in other episodes, it's the skill gap that now opens up or is more transparent, right? Some know how to use it. Some use it in a good way. They amplify their guitar sound in a good way. Others, you probably would say, take away the amplifier. Let him first do some rehearsals and get back into his room and study his tune, right? So these are the friction points I see raising up validation, communication, and skill gap. How do we deal with that? Because still the Agile Manifesto is in there, individuals and interactions over processes and tools.
Well, and it's becoming individuals and tools over something else then. Actually,
Probably.
you're mentioning an interesting topic. I think everyone knows the notion of the 4I principle. To verify whatever your colleague has created, just as a quality check. How is that called with AI in the loop? No idea. But Niko, what were your thoughts?
I think we have to write a AI manifesto, so AI manifesto, and I would like to see something like group interactions over one-on-one AI interactions, something like that. It's exactly what Stephan said. So if I leave somebody alone with AI who maybe has missing some skills or is easily convinced by something else, it will have a lot of crappy code, crappy requirements, crappy whatever. So I would like to go away from everybody's using her personal AI, and maybe also be over-talked or overconfident, that convinced that that's the right way to go. So I think we need group conversations, even if AI or AI will be part of this group. But I think the communication should go in such a direction so that somebody can say, I think this answer from AI, it's not the one we want to have. There's a loophole in the code that just generates, and so we can learn together. I think if I leave junior developers with AI coding together, they will just not see everything. So we have to go in a mode of group interactions, group communication, in such a way, because the one-on-one will not help us. And I told you in the beginning a story about how much AI hallucinated. I was really, how to say, pissed off in a nice way. I was really angry about the result I get, and I think some people could just be convinced that that's right, because it's so convincing at the moment. And sometimes I'm really afraid if I see my kids are learning a lot of with AI, school things, math, etc. So whenever they don't get something, they ask AI to help them. And then I think, what happens if it just invents a new math? And so I think we have to do also in the family more group interactions and say, let's go through math and everything you're doing together, instead of leaving you with the bold ideas of AI.
By the way, it brushes up your skills in math, Niko, as well, if you have the family mob group.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way, there's a risk of losing the, how do you call that? Like the group dynamic, the group connection type of thing. I see that. Yeah. In the meantime, while you're sharing your story, Niko, I've did a quick Google, because that's still possible.
How old are you?
ChatGPT. Yeah, I know.
But the quick Google uses Gemini under the hood now anyway, so
you're right. Yeah, you're right. So I use Gemini to see whether there is an AI manifesto, and actually there are many. The sensible AI manifesto, or the ethical AI manifesto, or even PEGA, which is sort of a platform, has its own AI manifesto. So there's people have been writing. Mark, coming back to you, what is your take on this topic?
I'm going to go backwards and forwards, right? Because on the one hand, I would go, AI is such a convenient and accessible pairing partner. It's very easy to just get stuck in it for too long, right? And go, I'm living, I'm getting feedback, I'm feeling like I'm interacting, and I'm getting brainstorming. And it's easy to stay too long there and except for, reach out for a human. That's the trap. But here's the flip side. The flip side is the average team member today across the globe. If I think about the average team member in Australia, how much human interaction do they actually have in their theoretically agile team? Right? Because the average team member in Australia works from home 3 days a week, usually, and 4 if they can get away with it, because most companies here are trying to get you to turn up to the office 2 days a week, but it's never the same 2 days a week, right? So the average person spends most of their time sitting at home working alone. And the only time they're ever interacting with another human is because somebody called a meeting. What's the actual quality of interaction? And this for me is, I think, yes, is there a possibility that AI is going to, head you away from good collaborative interaction as a team? You bet there is. On the basis that you're having good, productive interaction as a team today. Because I think in this kind of post-COVID world, most teams really struggle to have that, right? Is there, I'm just going to have a random 5-minute chat with somebody. I'm going to stop and connect as human beings for a few minutes. Well, actually, most people I know, their connection with other human beings is they write each other the occasional Teams message or email. They work and they go to meetings that somebody schedules and makes them turn up to, right? And if you're lucky, some of those meetings are well-facilitated workshops and it feels like you're actually interacting and doing agile things in them. But, that's the if you're lucky bit. So I always think with these things, you can look at it and go, yes, if you were a team that was humming and thriving and spending lots of together time as a team, could AI get in the way of that? Yeah, you bet, really easily. And if you're not, could AI get in the way of could it make it easier to survive without becoming high interaction? Yes, it could. But I think the real question for me is actually, when you think about individuals and interactions, could AI help us to figure out how to do that in a post-COVID world where people don't actually spend time together in the office?
That's interesting, because then it's trying to fill a gap that has been around for quite a long time, and I think that people got used to. Niko, I see you wanna.
Yeah, after heard to Mark, listen to Mark, I thought about the pairing thing. We just misunderstood it. So I think for me, pairing is still human to human plus AI, and many teams pair now with their AI instead with a human. So what I see these days is when two people pair for a task, it's pair programming or pair whatever, it's much more energetic and much more faster. Because one thing that I realized is, let's make a detour. Sorry. In my days, when I tried to argue why pair programming is important, people told me I don't want to pay two people for doing the same job. That doesn't make sense. What I'm seeing now, if I do pairing, they are in a zone. Because what happens today is when you are in your home office and alone, every once in a while your mobile phone rings and you just gotta read the message. You're gonna read the Slack message, the Teams message, you name the message. And I think by pairing with people and not with technology, you will look less on the phone and you are much more productive. So I would arguing and advise you to do, again, pair programming, pair reviewing, pair writing, whatever your job is, in pairs with another human and AI as a help, because it will bring you back to focus. Because really now I see so many developers just every 3 minutes just checking the phone because it vibrates and they are never deeply in the zone. And now they are relying on AI solving problems because they are not able to dig deeper and think deeper than before, to going in a stack trace so deep, because every once in a while they're looking on a phone, on a Teams channel or whatever. So I think the communication that should change is pairing with people plus AI and not pairing with your AI.
I got to come back.
It's
I know
very
Ali wants to
removing
move us
distraction.
to jiggles, but I
Go,
got to
Mark.
come back, right? Because I'm with you, Niko. I love pairing, right? It's amazing for focus, for energy, for productivity. And, I have been singing the praises of pairing ever since I started Agile coaching. I have been running little exercises to try and help people experience the joy of pairing. I have been running coding dojos to teach people pairing practices because it's amazing. Now, the question that I'd have for you is, if you think across all the Agile teams you've ever coached, right, in your entire coaching career, think of every Agile team you've ever touched. And for me, I think the count would be 1,000 plus. I don't know how many thousand, but it'd definitely be 1,000 plus. And you go, what percentage of the time, what percentage of those teams adopted pairing with any regularity, and what percentage of their lives did they spend doing it? Because pairing is a wonderful thing. I agree.
Sure.
What's different today? And this is the journey I keep coming on with AI, right? Is the more I learn about AI, the more I think about coaching AI and experiment with it, the more that I go back to Agile and Lean and how critical they are as an underpinning. But there's all these things that Agile said was a good idea and we believed was a good idea and we couldn't get people to do. And I just keep asking myself, can we come at this a different way? AI might stop people doing something we've been trying to get them to do and failing at for the last 20 years. Yes, right? Actually, is there another thing, which is, can it help us to get them to do things that they didn't used to do? And what's the mindset wiring on that? I don't know, Niko, what percentage would you add, right? Percentage of teams that have adopted pairing on a regular, systematic basis, and percentage of their working lives they were doing it?
Around 8 promille. 0 dot something. So the regular is a problem, and also the problem is management thinking it's an overhead. Why pay two people doing the same thing if I can pay two people and duplicate my workload? So it was always a problem to arguing. And the other thing was some developers. I have a lot of experience coaching developers. That's why I'm taking out developers. Some developers prefer to be alone and prefer or think they are faster and don't like to be interrupted and don't see the value out of it. And with those people, I forced or they tried the experiment. They sticked for a while, but still it's hard. So the people I study with, they are mostly introverts. So sitting now together in the same room, it's difficult for them. With remote work, it's a little bit easier, but still, I don't have a keyboard. I'm not allowed to type. I have to just talk my idea, and the person is always slower. The one who is on the keyboard on the laptop, it's always slower. It's like when your teacher is in front of the blackboard, he's always or she's always slower. See less, and you see everything fast. So yeah, it's in the promille, not percent. Yeah, eight out of 1,000, something like that.
Well, but I think whenever people sat together, also people that like to, work alone more, which is perfectly fine, you would see that there would be like occasional pair programming in a way.
Mhm.
There would be, somebody has an issue and asks a question or so. And then somebody else is like, you know what, let me just walk over and sit next to you. And before you know it, that person or those two people sit together for the entire day. But
The best pairings.
it's an
Sorry, the
occurrence
best
that can
pairings.
happen.
Sorry, the best
No, go ahead.
pairings I've seen is when the senior developer or the architect was curious and said, "Let's do something together. I want to also learn from you." So some pairings were always, "I want to judge you because I'm better than you, and let's see how stupid you are." Of course, then you have the wrong culture. But I've seen a lot of seniors architects with framing it in the way, let's do it together. I want to learn this new framework, this new technique. I just want to see how you do. I want to grow with you together. And I see more occasionally. So my answer was first no, because it was systematically. I don't see it systematically or currently. I see it once in a while for occasions. And if you have good architects as coaches, they use it as a Stilmittel, as a kind of way of doing it, as a style.
Yeah. Well, what is also a style is no, that's a very bad little bridge. No, let's go to the jiggle. Let's go also to the jiggle, because we have yet again a wonderful but also completely off-topic jiggle that has been created by the wonderful brain of Niko. Or maybe it's a little bit AI infused, who knows. So the jiggle of today is going to be the following. Imagine a wedding cake with lots of ingredients and toppings on it. Which topping or ingredient is representative of the impact of Agile on Agile teams? What am I saying? The impact of AI on Agile teams. You know what? I'm going to start with you, Niko. You're gonna. I don't understand how you come up with these kind of things.
I always the last episodes I try to share my thinking and not having a cool story. So my thinking in trying to solve this jiggle was if you're doing it wrong. So the impact of AI on Agile teams, and it's a topping or ingredient of a cake. If you're doing it wrong, it looks from the outside perfect. So at least what the mainstream think it's perfect. And it's fast delivered. It looks perfect, but it's nothing special. But you want your wedding cake to be special, maybe, and not just for all the same. Like in movies, they all look the same. But if you do it right, the ingredients is love, and you feel it.
Okay, then. Thank you, Niko. Mark.
So I'm going to steal Stephan's thunder a little bit because I think we have very similar answers. My mind went back about 20 years to when my daughters were still little girls. And I forget which daughter it was, but it was about a 7th or 8th birthday. And my wife threw a cupcake party for them. And the cupcake party was about a dozen little girls all around our dining table. And she'd baked a whole bunch of cupcakes with no icing or anything else. And she'd just filled the table with different colors of icing and sprinkles and you name it. And the whole idea was that each of these kids was going to make themselves 6 decorated cupcakes to take home. And the party was doing that activity. And boy, my daughters were excited about it, and it's the kind of thing I would never have thought of. My wife is very creative like that. So I just got to kind of watch and laugh. And I'll tell you what came out of that party. At the end of the party, 2 or 3 of those little girls had made the most amazing looking cupcakes. You just looked and went, oh, you just buy them from a shop. And then a couple of the girls, and we'd allowed Max, my son, to join in, had made the world's biggest monstrosities because they'd just take it as a challenge to go, how do I get every possible topping onto the table, onto every cupcake? And I just couldn't get past that image in my head. So over to you, Stephan.
Yeah, I can second that. We have a similar answer, right? And it leads me back to I as a coach, as a change agent, in the past, I so many times asked the wrong question. It's not about the topics and the ingredients, it's about who does it. Because if someone approaches my missus and says, could you create and bake a wedding cake for us? It's not about how it looks like. The first touch point is who does it, because they know it will be bespoke, it will be artistic, it will be colorful. It's about craftswomanship, right? Or craftsmanship that you have. So I would say it's the baker behind it. And then let's talk about ingredients and toppings.
Wow.
Nice. I like that.
That's wow. That one is deep. That one is deep. Agile teams. It's a little bit similar to what Mark mentioned, but then with kids and icing on cakes, because one of the characteristics of these types of cupcakes is that they're full of sugar. So I think if the kids would be also eating up those cupcakes, you'd have a huge amount of hyperactive little kids buzzing around through the room. It would be kind of chaos.
We did, because like all the sugar's in the toppings, but they ate more of the toppings than they put on the cupcakes.
Yes. There you go.
So the thing is, when I was trying to think of a ridiculous answer to this very creative jiggle, so I was like, okay, ingredients. The impact of AI on agile teams. Well, the impact could be, you supercharge somebody. You could also have an impact that is sort of very ineffective for the team. So it's like, what if the wedding cake would be laced with cocaine? Disclaimer, I've never been to a wedding that has this kind of stuff, nor do I know of one, nor do I recommend it, nor do I have experience.
You have wheat in the Netherlands, so it's okay.
This is a different magnitude of craziness. But if that would be a thing, then you'd have wedding, let's say, guests. Some of them would be absolutely miserable because they would get heart palpitations or whatsoever, and some other ones would be sort of turbocharged. And I think that's not going to be good for the wedding. It's like you have some people that have issues and other people that are sort of extremely hyper. I think that's going to generate some kind of an imbalance. So that's what I'm worrying about, I guess, is that that AI in agile teams is going to create some imbalance. And we've heard that before if we go back to our questions, we've heard that before also in our chats, that who to amplify and or what to amplify and what not. So maybe this is going to be the last sort of question that we're going to have today. Let's talk about ceremonies. Whenever we talk about agile, almost always sort of the rationale after it is we're talking about methods and meetings, ceremonies or rituals. Question to all of you guys: which specific agile ritual or Scrum ritual or safe ritual, let me give the example of a daily stand-up or sprint review or something like that, has been fundamentally changed or perhaps made redundant by an AI tool? And how do you ensure that at least the spirit of the ceremony is not lost? Let's start with Stephan this time.
Okay, two statements. I tried to provoke a little bit. I think all ceremonies are or will be changed. None should be redundant yet. And the stress is on yet, because there's a change. And the change is, what is it for? Do we have a team sync? What is it for? That would be the first question. And I would always try and tackle and kind of force the teams to think about, what kind of patterns do you have? What is more mundane mechanics that you could use AI to automate it? But also think about, when you do automation, it's a very thin line that you probably potentially will destroy the spirit behind the why. So yes, look at the team sync. It's how do you get from a synchronous connection to an asynchronous exchange with AI plus the people, because there's a collaboration. So yeah, we already discussed that. Don't lose this connection between the humans, but use AI as much as possible to get the data right, get it preliminary, and that's the asynchronous state that we will face in the future for probably all of the, not probably, I assume, for all the events we have on a team. And you have to find a hybrid model, and you have to find a transition, because it's change. Change is not, oh, let's have a look. Change is from one stable condition into the other one. And now we have a new team member, which is called AI.
So I just want to jump on the back of that one, because I think stand-ups or team syncs, I don't think I'll ever stop calling them stand-ups. I think they're a great place where you can sit and answer, because I'm with you, Stephan. It's like, not yet. Boy, it's going to fundamentally change them over time as teams evolve in the way they're using AI. But you take the stand-up, right? The problem with most stand-ups is their status meetings. And,
right.
and what is it you want out of the time people spend together? It's, oh my goodness, it's not a status meeting. And, you know, back in the days of physical Kanbans, how many times did you watch a Scrum Master make somebody move cards? Actually, that was if they're a good Scrum Master. How often did you watch a Scrum Master update the Kanban while people were talking?
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, this is our 15 minutes a day to update the Kanban. And it stops you from having the great conversation it could have been. But I think AI builds new habits. Because one of the things, if you're working with AI, if you're doing agentic stuff, it loves to have a plan, and it loves to tick off the plan as you go, right? And if you do a day's work, it'll generate a 20-point plan. And if you keep updating that plan, it'll do a lot better at helping you. So if you want to leverage AI, you're going to have an up-to-date plan, which means that actually what's going to happen when you get to stand-ups is everybody's going to have up-to-date plans, because getting into an agentic way of working has actually driven that discipline. And so there's more chance that you can get there and you go, well, we know where we're at, right? We don't have to talk about, is the plan up to date? All the plans are up to date. And actually, probably all the plans are up to date with notes about things that people did and challenges they hit and decisions they made. So if I was a Scrum Master going into a stand-up in a team that had got to pretty high agentic fluency, I would probably have a little primer that says, what changed in people's planning yesterday, and what are some of the key insights that I might ask clever questions about? And it's that opportunity to take the grunt work that dominates too many of these things out of the time box that's precious when you're together, and free the time box that you could be having and the high value conversation that's possible.
If the, let's say, AI tool that you use has agency, in the sense of it can trigger a webhook, it can update a status of a Jira ticket, whatever. So it can run queries and it can change data.
Let's face it, right? Have you ever known a dev who likes updating Jira in your life?
I think nobody likes updating these kind of things anyway.
But if you, and I think any sensible team today that was using Cursor would also have the Jira MCP server, and they'd have a shortcut in Jira to say close the ticket, so that you never actually had to go to Jira, but Jira stayed up to date, right? That's just Mickey Mouse stuff. And there's so much of the Mickey Mouse stuff that's available to us to go, get this junk out of the way so we can be a real team.
Yeah.
Niko,
Hi, my name is Niko, and I love... Yeah. My name is Niko, and I love to update Jira.
Really? Oh, okay.
Where's the
t-shirt?
Shoot me. Change the t-shirt. Come on, put it on.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot me. No, I can amplify what you said. So I think AI is there to collect information, collect data, I would never get rid of any of the events I'm having now, because they have a purpose. It's not only the goal I want to achieve, it's also the way where I'm going there. So like the daily stand-up, however it's called, daily scrum, daily stand-up, team coach, sync, or whatever, I don't care. There's a meaning behind of it, and the meaning is not I tell you what I've did because I want to have my salary. It's just what have I changed in my plans, how can I have helped the team go towards the goal. And I think this discussion should be there, and not the solution, the board is updated. Or in a retro, you can also say, yeah, it's easy, we just move the meeting, we have the data. The problem is the meeting is too early, let's move it. The idea is also have a connection with the human, why these things happened, why we have to move a meeting and have the daily instead of 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of interaction between humans, which is still important. So I don't see at the moment, as Stephan said, I don't see it yet which one is not important, because every meeting has a why. Same PI planning, it's not the plan. We talked about this in several episodes. It's about the alignment. And if AI does all the job, there will be no alignment between the team members, and then AI is under control or whatever. So we will lose our motivation, our context, why we are working, why we are doing this. And part of our context is the discussions we are having. So maybe they will be shorter, but also short is not the goal. The interaction is the goal. If it's short because now we don't have to find the data, then it's great. But just shorten it because we want to have the results would be a big fail in history.
So what I hear you say is that the intent of each meeting needs to be there, right? The collective planning. Then you'd have focus time. But during focus time, you'd like to have a brief moment to just check in with each other on how to support each other to finish that plan. And that there's a moment of learning or evaluation that needs to happen. That we call an iteration review or sprint review or something, or retrospective. So they're there for a reason. But then doesn't AI support exactly the intent, in the sense of taking away the grunt work to really focus on the person-to-person connection, the brainstorming thing that people do whenever they're together, rather than I need to update my board, or I need to write some stories into Azure DevOps. In a way, taking away the grunt work, the mundane, to overemphasize the intent of these meetings?
I think if you don't have a meeting, the crystallization point is missing to do things. So if you just say, I want to talk to people, and you never have the occasion to talk, that's a big problem. So how many times you were happy that your girlfriend, your wife, your husband forced you to go somewhere, and then you realize, now I can gain a lot out of it. So if we don't have these meeting points, these crystallization points, we will never do it. That's at least my opinion.
So for what you meant, okay, now I understand you. It's like more the meetings are in a way a forcing function for connection, and it's like an agreement in a way of,
Yes.
you know what, at certain moments we're gonna connect, and not agreeing about these kind of things means they're gonna happen anyways. It's in other shapes or forms, but maybe in a more ad hoc manner, which is something that we as Agilists do not want to do.
Well,
I see what you mean. Thank you.
But let's always play devil's advocate just a little bit. Right?
Okay.
And I'm going to go to pre-AI for a second. And I think it was Diana Larson did this speech at one of the Agile conferences. And she had this thing, don't have rosy retrospectives. And there was this move, right, for a couple of years where everybody's like, we have this thing with retrospectives that says we do them every 2 weeks. But by 2 weeks, if you've had a key learning moment on the third day of the sprint, by the time you get to the end of the sprint, you've lost it.
It's gone.
Right? And if you're a Kanban person, you go, we didn't have retros. We had moments where we said we need to have problem-solving sessions, right?
Yeah.
So the trigger wasn't it's every second week. The trigger was something happened that we should gather around. And then I'm going to go just a little bit further on this one, because I was reading Art Smalley, I think I mentioned this last week, one of the original Lean Gang has started writing a lot about what he's doing on with AI in the lean space on the LEI. And he built an agent. He said, root cause analysis, right? Such a critical skill in lean. And he said, the biggest thing, the challenge with root cause analysis is people don't have access to coaches to teach them to do it well. So most of the people in the world do a terrible job of root cause analysis, even just like 5 whys, because they can't get coaches who are going to teach them to do better 5 whys. Yeah. And he was like, the thing that really changed what was going on for me with AI was, a couple of months into his journey of experimenting with AI, he'd built an agent that did a better job of coaching someone through 5 whys than 85% of the root cause analysis coaches that he'd met in his life. And I think, right, how many times have we tried to teach a Scrum Master to facilitate a good 5 whys? And how many disasters have you seen in your life? But you go, oh, you know what? When you guys get to do root cause analysis and problem solving, perhaps the moment it happened instead of waiting 2 weeks to talk to each other, you can have an agent that actually acts as the facilitator to uplift the effectiveness of the exploration you make. So it's still coming back to, we need the alignment, we need the collective engagement and reflection together, but
Yes.
I think it might look very different.
It does look different when just the mundane is taken out, but the essence is still there. Let's go to the essence and go to our just one takeaway of the episode. Mark, you were talking just now. How about you finalize your thoughts with one key takeaway?
Well, my pre-thinking was about a trigger we never got to because maybe I spoke too much earlier. If I had to make one up on the spot, it would be, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty person, right? Is there an Agile I dreamed of and I fear that AI will mean I never get to see it anymore? Or is there an Agile that I dreamed of and AI gives me a chance to uplift the possibility I might see it?
In a way, overemphasizing the essence. I'm having a lot of sort of great ideas that came all from you, which is fantastic. Sorry for rattling on. Niko, how about you?
My key takeaway or key advice, whatever, is do not seek for speed, seek for value.
Alrighty. Thank you, Stephan.
Ali, you promised that we talk about margaritas, and I'm trying to talk about margaritas in one sentence using a Japanese haiku. I stumbled upon these haikus, which is a traditional Japanese poem with 3 lines. And the 3 lines go as this: frictions, dance, chairs. The developers sip margaritas while compliance drowns. Same jam, different room. A little bit food for thought for the next week.
Well, we're seeing a surprising different side of Stephan, being a poet. I know you're a man of many qualities, but this is just this one a poet as well. Thank you. My one key takeaway is small, stable teams delivering value without the overhead of the mundane, powered by AI. I think my really big takeaway here is just everything that we've always learned, taught, and experienced with Agile it's still there, and it's even more important than ever. But we take away the mundane. Fantastic. Which hopefully is going to be something for future episodes. But if we're looking to the next episode, it's going to be hosted, next week by Stephan.
Stephan, why don't you tell us a little bit about the journey we're going to take on that one?
It's interesting. We talked about take out the mundane, take out the mechanics. We talked about documents, and we have this term of solution intent. Where do you store knowledge about what is the demand? What is our design? Where are we heading to with our products? And next week, let's talk about the solution intent in the context of AI, because I'm sure that the solution intent will be transformed as well based on what AI does or could do.
So until then, keep it on trucking on, and we'll see you next week.